What if we told you that before the age of dinosaurs, the skies were already ruled by mysterious winged reptiles? Meet the astonishing creature that soared above deserts 200 million years ago, Caelestiventus hanseni, a prehistoric flyer unlike anything you've ever imagined. Try to imagine Earth over 200 million years ago, before the towering dinosaurs ruled the land. It was a time when the world looked very different. Deserts stretched across huge areas, early reptiles walked on four legs, and strange creatures with wings had just begun to appear in the skies. One of these early flyers has recently been discovered by scientists in southern Utah. What makes it so special? It's one of the oldest known flying reptiles ever found. This ancient animal is called a pterosaur, which is a type of flying reptile. Pterosaurs aren't actually dinosaurs, but they lived during the same time and shared the same world. Even more amazing, pterosaurs were the first animals with backbones, vertebrates, to figure out how to fly. That means they beat birds and bats to the sky by millions of years. The fossil found in Utah is the oldest known example of a pterosaur so far, which makes this discovery a huge step forward for scientists who study ancient life. One of the coolest things about this find is how well the fossil was preserved. Many fossils from this time are broken or squished flat, but this one still has its skull almost completely intact. That means researchers can look at the tiny details of its head and teeth and learn more about what it ate, how it sensed its environment, and even how it might have moved. Studying these kinds of fossils helps us piece together the puzzle of life on Earth long before humans existed. The name of this new species is Caelestiventus hanseni, which means heavenly wind in Latin. It's a fitting name for a creature that once soared through the air. By looking closely at this fossil, scientists are finding new clues about how animals developed the ability to fly, and how they managed to survive in tough environments like deserts. Back then, you might not expect deserts to be full of life, but this discovery proves otherwise. In fact, Caelestiventus tells us that long before lush jungles and coastal cliffs became home to flying creatures, some of the first flyers were already making their homes in dry, sandy places. This amazing fossil shows that the ancient world was full of surprises, and it's likely that many more are still waiting to be discovered, hidden deep within the Earth's rocky layers. Caelestiventus hanseni might sound like a name from a science fiction or fantasy movie, but it's actually the scientific name of a real and very ancient flying reptile. This fascinating creature belonged to a group called pterosaurs. Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs, even though they lived at the same time. Instead, they were flying reptiles and were among the first vertebrates, animals with backbones, to take to the skies. That means they figured out how to fly long before birds or bats ever appeared. What makes Caelestiventus especially exciting is how old it is. This animal lived about 210 million years ago, during a time known as the Late Triassic period. That's incredibly early in Earth's history, and much earlier than most of the other pterosaur fossils scientists have discovered. Its discovery changes what scientists used to think about the timeline of flight in reptiles. Before finding this fossil, most researchers believed that pterosaurs didn't appear until a bit later in the Mesozoic era. But now we know they were already flying much earlier, which means they had more time to spread out and evolve into different types. Even though it lived so long ago, Caelestiventus had features that were very advanced for its time. Its bones were hollow and lightweight, which helped it fly more easily. This is similar to how bird bones are structured today. Its skull was also very well developed for flight. It had large eye sockets, helping it see well while flying, and sharp teeth that probably helped it catch insects or small animals. These traits show us that Caelestiventus was already well adapted to life in the air, even at such an early stage in pterosaur history. Another thing that makes Caelestiventus so useful for scientists is how much it helps us understand where pterosaurs fit in the reptile family tree. Even though it shares some traits with other reptiles from its time, like the shape of certain bones in its limbs and jaw, it clearly belonged to a group that was starting to specialize in flying. By comparing the bones of Caelestiventus to those of other ancient animals, paleontologists, scientists who study fossils, can better understand how flying reptiles branched off from their land-based relatives. Also, the fossil itself is in excellent condition, which makes it even more valuable for study. Many fossils from the Triassic period are flattened or damaged, but Caelestiventus was found with its skull almost completely intact. This gives scientists a detailed look at its anatomy and allows them to make accurate models of what it looked like and how it may have moved. So, Caelestiventus hanseni is far more than just another old fossil. It's a remarkable find that tells a bigger story about the early days of flight, how reptiles began exploring the skies, and how life on Earth was already more diverse and exciting than we once believed. With each fossil like this, we get a little closer to understanding our planet's ancient past. Even though Caelestiventus hanseni lived more than 200 million years ago, the fossil that scientists discovered gives us a surprisingly detailed picture of what this fascinating flying reptile looked like. Thanks to how well the bones were preserved, especially the skull, paleontologists can study the animal's shape, structure, and possible behavior in ways that aren't always possible with such ancient fossils. One of the first features that stands out is its wingspan. Scientists estimate that its wings stretched about 15 meters, around 5 feet, from tip to tip. That's roughly as wide as a person lying on the ground. While that's not very large compared to the giant pterosaurs that would appear millions of years later, it was still a good size for a flyer in the Triassic period. It likely looked impressive soaring through the ancient skies. Like many pterosaurs, Caelestiventus had bones that were hollow and thin-walled. This made its skeleton much lighter, which is a big advantage for flying. These lightweight bones are similar to those found in birds today, which also depend on low body weight for flight. Scientists believe that this feature helped Caelestiventus stay agile and glide or flap through the air without using too much energy. The skull is one of the most important parts of the fossil. It was almost completely preserved, which is very rare, especially for animals from this early time period. The skull shows a long, narrow snout filled with sharp, cone-shaped teeth. These teeth suggest that Caelestiventus was a carnivore, meaning it ate meat. It probably hunted and ate small animals such as insects, tiny fish, or small reptiles that lived in or near desert oases. One of the coolest and most unusual things about Caelestiventus and all pterosaurs is how its wings were built. Unlike birds, which have wings made of feathers, pterosaurs had wings made of a thin layer of skin and muscle. This membrane stretched from the side of the body to the tip of an extremely long fourth finger on each hand. That might sound strange, but it was a clever and efficient design that allowed these reptiles to glide smoothly and make quick turns in the air. The eye sockets in the skull were large, suggesting that Caelestiventus had very good eyesight. This would have helped it spot prey while flying high above the ground. Some researchers also think it might have had a small crest or ridge on its head, like some of its later pterosaur relatives, but the fossil doesn't clearly show one, so this is still just a guess. When you put all the details together, Caelestiventus hanseni was a sleek and efficient flyer. With long, powerful wings, a light body, sharp teeth, and strong vision, it was perfectly built for life in the air. It likely spent much of its time gliding over dry desert landscapes, using its sharp eyes to search for food and its agile wings to chase down prey. Even though it lived so long ago, its body design already showed many of the clever adaptations that would help later flying reptiles dominate the skies for millions of years to come. When we picture ancient flying reptiles like Caelestiventus hanseni, we usually imagine them soaring above oceans or nesting on sea cliffs, diving for fish or gliding on coastal winds. But this particular pterosaur tells a very different story. Instead of salty ocean air, Caelestiventus flew over a vast desert landscape, a place of wind-blown sand dunes, scattered oases, and short bursts of greenery. This surprising detail has caused scientists to rethink many ideas about where early flying reptiles could live and thrive. The fossil of Caelestiventus was uncovered in southern Utah, in a rock formation known as the Saints and Sinners Quarry. During the late Triassic period, over 200 million years ago, this area wasn't dry and rocky like it is today. Back then, it was part of a large desert system, similar in some ways to the Sahara, but with periodic wet seasons. These seasonal rains created oases, or patches of water and plant life, that supported small but thriving ecosystems in the middle of the arid terrain. What's truly remarkable is how scientists figured this out. By carefully examining the rocks and sediment surrounding the fossil, paleontologists discovered fine layers of sandstone and silt that had been shaped by both wind and water. This showed that the desert where Caelestiventus lived wasn't lifeless. It went through cycles of dry and wet periods. During wetter times, pools and streams would appear, attracting plants and animals. These shifting conditions created just enough opportunities for a wide range of creatures to survive, including this flying reptile. In this semi-arid world, Caelestiventus likely glided over sand dunes, used thermal currents of rising hot air to stay aloft, and returned to water-rich areas to hunt or rest. Its diet likely included small fish, insects, or other animals that gathered near these rare sources of water. Fossil evidence from the same quarry shows that it shared its environment with early dinosaurs, amphibians like frogs or salamander-like creatures, and other small reptiles that had adapted to desert life. Before this discovery, many scientists assumed that pterosaurs first evolved near coastlines and mostly lived around oceans and lagoons. But Caelestiventus proves that some of the earliest flyers were already adapted to inland environments, even deserts, which we used to think were too harsh or dry to support them. This means flying reptiles were far more flexible and adaptable than once believed, willing to settle in places where survival took cleverness and mobility. The story of Caelestiventus hanseni reminds us that prehistoric life wasn't just confined to lush forests or ocean shores. Some species carved out lives in extreme places, like deserts, where survival meant taking full advantage of every drop of rain, every shady tree, and every sudden meal. The fact that this pterosaur could thrive in such a challenging place shows us just how inventive and diverse early life could be, even in the driest corners of the ancient world. Learning how Caelestiventus hanseni lived helps scientists picture what life was like for one of the world's earliest flying reptiles. Even though no one can go back in time to see it fly or hunt, the clues found in its fossil, like the shape of its bones and the place it was discovered, let researchers make educated guesses about its daily habits and survival strategies. Thanks to its hollow bones and large wings, Caelestiventus was clearly built for life in the air. It probably spent much of its time gliding over the hot desert landscape where it lived. Like modern birds of prey, it may have used warm air currents rising from the ground, called thermals, to stay up in the sky without flapping its wings too much. This would have helped it travel long distances while using less energy. Its long jaws and sharp, cone-shaped teeth give us more clues. These teeth weren't flat like those of a plant eater. They were perfect for catching and holding onto slippery or moving prey. This tells scientists that Caelestiventus was a carnivore. It likely hunted small animals such as insects, lizards, amphibians, or little fish that gathered around rare desert water sources. With its strong eyesight, it could have spotted prey while flying high, then swooped down quickly to catch it. But flying and hunting are only part of the story. Scientists also wonder how Caelestiventus behaved when it wasn't in the air. Did it live in groups or on its own? Did it nest with others like some birds do, or prefer a more solitary life? Although we don't have direct evidence of its social behavior, researchers look at related pterosaur species to make guesses. Some fossils suggest pterosaurs gathered in colonies during nesting season, while others seemed more independent. Since Caelestiventus had the freedom to explore large areas, it may not have needed to rely on a group to survive. Reproduction is another interesting topic. Even though no eggs were found with the fossil, scientists believe Caelestiventus, like other pterosaurs, laid soft-shelled eggs. These eggs were probably buried in warm sand or soil near water to keep them safe and moist. Studies of other pterosaur fossils suggest that the babies, once hatched, may have been able to fly within a few days. If true, this would have helped them avoid predators and search for food on their own early in life. It's also possible that Caelestiventus used its claws to perch on rocks or trees, resting between flights or staying alert while watching for prey. Desert environments can be harsh, with long dry periods followed by short bursts of rain. Flying reptiles like Caelestiventus may have developed flexible routines to take advantage of changing conditions, staying active when water was available, and gliding to new areas when food became scarce. All in all, Caelestiventus hanseni likely lived a busy and challenging life in a tough desert world. With excellent flying skills, sharp teeth, and keen eyesight, it was well equipped to find food and avoid danger. Its ability to thrive in this kind of environment shows us that even the earliest flying reptiles were already clever, capable, and ready to take on whatever the prehistoric world threw their way. The fossil of Caelestiventus hanseni is far more than just an ancient skeleton dug out of rock. It's a groundbreaking find that helps scientists unlock the secrets of how flying reptiles evolved and where they lived. For a long time, most of the pterosaur fossils scientists had found came from younger time periods, such as the Jurassic or Cretaceous, and nearly all of them were discovered in places that used to be coastal environments. This led many researchers to believe that the first flying reptiles probably lived near the ocean and needed a wet, beach-like habitat to survive. But Caelestiventus tells a very different story, and that story starts in a desert. This remarkable animal lived over 200 million years ago, during the late Triassic period, making it one of the oldest known pterosaurs ever discovered. That alone is impressive, but it also forces scientists to rethink the timeline of pterosaur evolution. Before this fossil was found, it was believed that pterosaurs didn't become widespread until much later. Caelestiventus proves that these animals were already flying through the skies and adapting to new environments much earlier than we thought. And not only that, they were also more diverse than previously imagined. Perhaps one of the most surprising things about this discovery is where the fossil was found. It wasn't dug out of rock near an ancient shoreline, but instead came from the site of what used to be a desert filled with sand dunes and scattered oases. This tells scientists that early pterosaurs didn't just live in wet places like lagoons or oceans. They could also survive in hot, dry, and challenging environments. Thanks to their ability to fly, pterosaurs like Caelestiventus could explore different habitats, find food and water, and escape danger by gliding across long distances. This flexibility might be one of the reasons why they were able to spread so widely and stick around for millions of years. Another reason why this fossil is so valuable is because it's in amazing condition. Fossils from the Triassic period are usually damaged, flattened, or incomplete because of how much time has passed and how much pressure the rocks have been under. But the fossil of Caelestiventus, especially its skull, was almost completely preserved. That gave scientists a rare chance to study parts of the animal that are usually missing, such as the shape of its brain cavity, the placement of its eye sockets, and how its jaw and teeth were built. All of these details help researchers figure out how Caelestiventus sensed the world around it, and how it used its body to catch prey and navigate through the air. Finally, this discovery is important because it fills in a missing piece of the puzzle about how flight evolved in reptiles. It proves that the ability to fly didn't just appear suddenly during the Jurassic period. It was already developing earlier, and in more types of environments than we previously knew. Caelestiventus hanseni shows us that early flying reptiles were smart, adaptable, and already taking advantage of the sky in ways that helped them survive in a tough and changing world. In short, Caelestiventus doesn't just tell us about one ancient animal, it opens up a new chapter in the story of evolution. It helps scientists better understand how life learned to fly, and it reminds us that the Earth's past is full of surprises still waiting to be uncovered. The story of Caelestiventus hanseni is more than just a look at an ancient flying reptile. It's a powerful reminder of how much we still don't know about Earth's deep history and how many exciting discoveries are still waiting to be made. This remarkable animal, with its sharp teeth, wide wings, and surprising desert habitat, shows us that even 200 million years ago, life on our planet was already full of surprising adaptations and clever survival strategies. What makes Caelestiventus truly special isn't just its age, or the fact that it's one of the earliest flying reptiles ever found. It's also the way it challenges our previous ideas about where these creatures could live and how early they developed. Before this fossil was discovered, many scientists believed that pterosaurs first appeared in coastal environments and only later spread to other regions. But Caelestiventus lived far from the ocean, in a dry desert landscape filled with sand dunes and oases. That tells us that these animals were much more adaptable than we thought, and that they had already learned how to survive in harsh environments, even in the early stages of their evolution. The excellent condition of the fossil also makes a big difference. Many fossils from the Triassic period are crushed or incomplete, but this one includes a nearly complete skull. That allowed scientists to study fine details like the shape of its eye sockets, its teeth, and even parts of its brain cavity. From those details, they could learn more about how Caelestiventus saw the world, how it hunted for food, and how its body worked in flight. Every piece of information adds to our understanding of how flight began in reptiles and how early flying animals lived their lives. This discovery also reminds us that big changes in evolution can happen earlier than we expect. Caelestiventus proves that pterosaurs had already developed many advanced features very early in their history. They weren't just beginner flyers, they were already skilled gliders and hunters, capable of traveling long distances and living in tough places. That kind of success helped their group survive and evolve for millions of years after Caelestiventus lived. In the end, Caelestiventus hanseni gives us more than just a cool story about a prehistoric animal. It helps scientists piece together the puzzle of how life on Earth changed over time. It shows us how animals found new ways to live and explore the world, from land to sea to sky. And perhaps most importantly, it proves that even one single fossil, hidden in the rock for millions of years, can completely change how we understand our planet's past. It's a story of curiosity, discovery, and the incredible things we can still learn from the ancient life all around us, if we keep looking. The fossil of Caelestiventus hanseni wasn't something that just popped up by chance. It was uncovered thanks to years of patient, careful work by scientists digging in the hot, rocky deserts of southern Utah. The place where it was found is called the Saints and Sinners Quarry. This site is known to hold fossils from a very ancient time in Earth's history called the Late Triassic period, which was over 200 million years ago. During this time, Earth looked very different. Deserts covered large areas, and the very first dinosaurs and flying reptiles were just beginning to appear. A team from Brigham Young University, BYU, led by paleontologist Dr. Brooks Britt, played a key role in finding and studying the fossil. Their hard work led to the official description of Caelestiventus hanseni in 2018, published in the scientific journal Nature Ecology and Evolution. The scientists didn't just rely on old-fashioned digging. They also used high-tech tools like 3D scanning to look closely at the fossil's features and compare it to other pterosaurs. These scans allowed them to create detailed digital images of the bones and figure out how this animal was related to other flying reptiles. What made this discovery especially important was how incredibly well the fossil was preserved. Most fossils from the Triassic period are incomplete or badly damaged because of their age. They've been squished by layers of rock or eroded by time. but the fossil of Caelestiventus included a nearly complete skull with many delicate parts still in place. This gave scientists a rare chance to study details that are usually lost, like the shape of the brain cavity, the placement of the eyes, and the arrangement of teeth in the jaw. These tiny clues helped researchers better understand how this early flyer sensed its surroundings, found food, and possibly even how it behaved. Since its discovery, Caelestiventus hanseni has become an important fossil, not just for scientists, but for the public too. It's been featured in museum exhibits and used in educational programs to teach students about the early days of flight. Because the fossil was preserved in 3 dimensions, not flattened like many other fossils, it's perfect for making accurate 3D models. These models let students, researchers, and museum visitors explore what this flying reptile looked like from every angle. It has also been featured in science documentaries and articles around the world. This fossil has had a big impact on how scientists think about early pterosaurs. Before Caelestiventus, most people believed that early flying reptiles lived mainly near oceans. But this fossil came from a desert, showing that some pterosaurs were already adapted to dry, inland environments. This changes our understanding of where and how early flight may have evolved. It also shows how flying reptiles were more flexible and widespread than we once believed. In the end, the story of Caelestiventus hanseni is about more than just one animal. It's a great example of how science, teamwork, and modern technology can help us uncover secrets from the past. Every fossil has a story to tell, and this one tells us about a world long gone, a world where creatures were just learning how to take to the skies. Thanks to the work of paleontologists and new tools like 3D scanning, we're now able to see that world more clearly than ever before. The story of Caelestiventus hanseni is more than just learning about an old flying reptile. It helps us imagine what life was like over 200 million years ago and how animals first started learning to fly. From its amazing skull to the fact that it lived in a desert, this fossil gives scientists new clues about how flight began, long before birds or bats ever existed. But cool discoveries like this aren't just for scientists, they're meant to be shared. If you thought learning about this ancient flying reptile was interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We've got more fun science stories coming your way, including other awesome fossils and what they tell us about life on Earth. We'll keep exploring the past to bring you new discoveries that help make sense of the world around us. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop learning.